Hello and welcome to episode number 1 of the Wise Guys podcast. My name is John Tortorelli with my two bro hosts, Justin Ray and Brandon Capizzello.
What's up,
Today
man?
we have a special edition, and that's why I think it's fitting to be the first ever episode of this show. Game 6 in the NBA Finals was last night. The Golden State Warriors are NBA champions again. How? How did this happen? How did we find ourselves where we are today? Did any of you expect that to be something someone would say in 2020?
Well, honestly, yeah, I kind of think so. So last night you hear Steph Curry and he goes, nobody thought we would be here. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I was like, I think a couple people did. Everybody knew that the only reason they sucked was because, one, they weren't healthy. And two, you lose probably the most talented player in the NBA. You're not going to be the best team right off the bat. It's going to take some time. But all it took was them getting healthy for them to get back to this point right now.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, I mean, on the other side for Boston, it's just, go back to the number one thing that pops into my head is turnovers. I mean, you look at Game 5, Boston has 18 turnovers to the Warriors 6. And then in Game 6, Boston has 22 turnovers. And the only reason it was close is because Golden State was also playing softly with about 13 turnovers. So both sides were being inefficient with the ball, making sloppy plays, sloppy decisions, and Golden State is just the more experienced team. They've been there before, like Klay Thompson said, and they took advantage of the moment.
Do you want to know the crazy thing about that turnover stat you listed?
Mm-hmm.
The Warriors were second to last in turnovers in the regular season, ahead of just the Houston Rockets, who, if you could build a turnover factory, that would have been like Kevin Porter Jr. bouncing the ball off of his foot and Jalen Green doing the same exact thing for they picked up toward the end of the year. But that's how much the Warriors turn over the ball, that they were almost in that stratosphere. And yet they locked down so well defensively to end that series. Have we forgotten that the Celtics lost 3 games in a row? When they're up 2-1, and people are saying, how are the Warriors going to respond? Because the Celtics can go up 3-1. And if they do, this series is over if they have all of that momentum. And yet somehow the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry, find a way to just not only outplay Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown, who was the best player for the Celtics in the series. Their bench that was so strong for them in the conference finals, Grant Williams, Derek White, they had their moments. Defense is scheme a certain way. Grant Williams is getting open corner threes. Derek White's getting open looks. Al Horford is. Once those Celtics ball handlers, Tatum and Brown, were really being locked up by Andrew Wiggins, and then Klay Thompson, who really found his comfort zone defensively as the series went on, all of those turnovers ensued. And next thing you know, those secondary players who feed off of the ball handling and passing of those primary guards, and Marcus Smart, who may be the most inconsistent passer at the point guard position that's a starter, there is no rhythm in their offense. Jason Tatum sometimes will just fall asleep. And we're going to talk about Stephen Curry's ranking all time at first, but I want to talk about Jason Tatum actually instead. I don't think we should talk about Steph because we should talk about Steph to be sure. I want to save that. But while we're on the topic, when we're looking at Jason Tatum, is he a top 10 player in the NBA?
No.
Yes.
No. Hold on.
Justin.
Right. Go ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
No. I'm going to let you go. Go.
Okay. So for top 10, I believe he will be there eventually. He's got the talent, he's got the skills, he's got the athleticism, he's got the speed, he's got the size. He's a complete player. And the way he played defense on Kevin Durant in the first round of the playoffs was spectacular. All right.
I'm waiting for the but.
So, but it's just he hasn't put it all together yet, and it comes with experience. It comes with that experience. It just takes time. So with Jason Tatum, it's going to take time, and eventually he'll get there. It's just not there yet.
Okay. Go. All right, just hear me out. So I hear experience so much. Like everybody wants to throw out experience, maybe finals experience, but this guy has had conference finals experience. He's had big playoff experience, big games to get his team into a playoff position experience. He's played in big moments, and not to mention he's only 24. So I look at guys, and we could point at PG or your boy Jimmy Butler. We've seen their ceiling. And the fact that we can say Jason Tatum is anywhere close to these guys at 24 years old, bro, this guy is top 10, and he blows them away. And I'm not saying by a little bit, by a whole lot. I throw him in. I'd say he's a top 7 player. I'd go that far.
Justin, all right, so the biggest reason why I think Tatum struggled is because he was gassed. He goes to the Olympics last year, and he basically had no offseason because remember, since the season started late last season, it ended in June. And then he has that quick turnaround going into training camp. He's top 5 minutes played this in the regular season. Postseason, he goes to 2 Game 7s. And then by Game 4, Game 5 or even Game 1 of the finals, you can tell something was up and he was gassed. His shots were short. There wasn't a whole lot of lift.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. Jimmy Butler thoroughly outplayed him in the conference finals. It was, in my opinion, not close who the best player in that series was. Jimmy had the complete control, and the only reason why he didn't go to the finals was because his team was bombarded by injuries. Lowry, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo was on something because Lowry wasn't there. It was that domino effect of Miami's offense just not being capable enough because basketball is all about weathering the storm of injuries in the postseason. And I think for Jason Tatum, I don't think he's better than Jimmy Butler right now. Yeah, he can be in 2 years when Jimmy's 34 years old, but we just saw in the conference finals, even with Jimmy's limitations as a three-point shooter, maybe he's not this all-world playmaker in spite of that, but he was clearly the best player in the finals. We see Steph. Is Steph a top 5 player? Some people would say no, and Steph was so much better throughout the entire series. For me, my top 10 is Giannis at number 1, Jokic at number 2, Embiid at number 3, Luka at number 4. Fans going to like that one. Kevin Durant at number 5, LeBron at 6. I think you could flip-flop the two of them. Same with Luka. I think they're very close, but I take into account durability, availability. That's why I have Luka over the two of them. Then Steph at 7. I'm probably going to boost him. I'm going to switch him and KD. Probably put KD at 7. 8, Kawhi. You haven't seen him play. Then you have Tatum, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Trae Young, Dame, and Ja Morant.
So you had Tatum at 9?
I have Tatum. I actually have him at number 10 behind Paul George. I have Paul George ahead of him because we've seen Paul George also take a team to the conference finals, a Game 7 against LeBron James. He's a new player now, and I would argue he's a better version of himself, even though he was injured this season. I think durability does matter, and Tatum's a more durable player. I think Paul George doesn't have those same moments where he just disappears. If you're number 1, you can't disappear. We saw when he's playing off of Kawhi in the bubble, there were some sketchy moments. But then in 2021, without Kawhi, he was the best player in that Phoenix series. He was so good. And we saw him literally win 4 straight games with Kawhi missing 2 against the Jazz. He's been able to be that guy consistently for the Clippers. And I think while Tatum will be better in a few seasons, Paul George's game's still going to age well, just with his shooting and size. And to me, he's a better playmaker. Defensively, Tatum is a better on-ball defender. We saw what he did against Kevin Durant. Yeah. But off-ball, I would say that Paul George is better. And if he's a better three-point shooter, like in terms of percentages, this season he was down, but generally we can, I think, all agree he's a better mid-range or more efficient mid-range shooter than Tatum, right? So he's a better shooter, better playmaker. I think it's close between the two of them. But at the same time, I have Paul George ahead of him because of that.
Let me get. So basically, what I want to say to Justin is, so who are you taking off the top 10? So if like, obviously you've got your LeBrons who's in the top 10, Curry's, Durant's, Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, Doncic, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people right there, right? For me, I also have Kawhi Leonard. I think he's a lock for top 10. You can't. So that's 8 for me. Then you have. So you're taking off either Chris Paul or Jimmy Butler.
I'm taking off Jimmy Butler.
But see, here's the thing.
Excuse
Like
me?
John just said, Jimmy Butler just outplayed him in the conference finals.
But that's fine. But John also said that he looked gassed.
Okay,
So,
but that's not. But hold on. He's a elite athlete getting paid millions of dollars. I don't want to hear the gassed excuse because Jimmy Butler with a less talented team took LeBron and AD 6 games without Goran Dragic, their leading playoff scorer, and Bam Adebayo was banged up the whole season. All right, and we saw the performances that he put up in the finals. Name Jason Tatum's moment in the finals this year. Well, what game was it that he showed up? What game?
I'm not debating that. I'm not trying to even slight Jimmy Butler. I love Jimmy buckets. I would throw him number 11 or I'll swap him with CP at 10, if it makes you happy. But honestly, just from my perspective, I guess I just look at his game where I know that there's more in the tank than what we've seen. I know we know Paul George's game. It's not going to get any better or any worse. We know it. Same thing with Jimmy buckets. Well, actually, he surprised a couple of people this year, but
yeah.
But for me, that's why I said I love Jimmy buckets, man. But I honestly think Jason Tatum's game he's gonna continue to evolve. He's gonna be one of the best defenders in the league. He's gonna be a top 10 scorer in the league.
I agree. He will be probably a top 5 two-way player in the league. Not yet though. That's my whole thing. He will put it all when he puts it all together. We will see it and we will realize it at that moment.
But isn't that scary? At 24 years old, this is what we're seeing. I mean, before the Miami series, like this guy's a nightmare for defenders. He's a nightmare to game plan against for any coach. Like at 24 years old, man, this guy's gonna run the league. I look at him and Luka, and I'm just like, man, I want to see these two guys in an NBA Finals one day.
But do you think Tatum can carry an offense like Luka can? Luka's offense is so simple because of how transcendent an offensive
No, I completely agree with you there.
And that's what I was going to say, John. That's what I was going to say is that Luka's the primary. He's making all the decisions. All the decisions. Jason Tatum's not making all the decisions. And if we saw him in the finals this year, when they asked him to make decisions, he'd drive to the hoop under the basket in midair. And that's what you can't do that. No plan. You're just throwing it. Like,
listen, he folded, man. He folded like an Auntie Anne's pretzel. But it happens, bro. Like, I saw a crazy stat. And I think it was Kobe Bryant's first NBA Finals, and it was he had a poor finals, man. It happens, and you can't expect greatness on every single level. You're gonna fail at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if we find Jason Tatum in the same spot next season.
So I think we agree. I think we agree. He's a great player. He's going to be better. But we just differ on, is it now or is it in the future? Yeah.
Well, to be sure, Kobe's first finals, he was 21 years old, and he wasn't supposed to be the main man. Tatum, in my opinion, given his inexperience, you can take that into consideration, but to be a bona fide superstar, right now he's a two-way star. He could be an all-defensive player if he had this crazy offensive load. But can he be that main man that takes you to the finals and drives your offense? Because the Celtics offense was not good enough, even with all the talents and dynamicism of him and Jaylen Brown. Wing players are so invaluable in this league, and the Celtics have two of the best. We can talk about Jaylen Brown in the next episode. This is going to be a shorter one, probably around 25 to 30 minutes. But to me, I look at Tatum and I say, he has a lot of things to refine his game. As a ball handler, a finisher, a decision maker, someone that was trusting his teammates. Now we're getting to the stage he's over-penetrating. And he's going into a crowd defenders, and what will happen is he drives in 2 or 3 of them. There is maybe a little bit of contact, and then he tries to get the foul. He doesn't, then he jogs back on defense.
James Harden's
bashing
foul.
my head against the pillow. And I'm just like, you can't play lethargic like that in moments when it doesn't go your way. You got to hustle back on defense. You got to get back. And there are many times where Nemanja Bjelica was able to play some minutes because Tatum couldn't take advantage of those mismatches. He couldn't, when the Warriors would send late help or just help in general, and his mind processed the game quick enough. And when the Warriors defense settled down and was under control, he showed he's not a good enough offensive talent now to lead a team. And you're looking at the team around him defensively. Of course, they're great. He's playing next to Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Al Horford, Derek White. All these guys can make all defensive teams. that only elevates him as a defensive player, even though he has all the tools to be a lockdown guy who literally just shut down Kevin Durant. To be sure, I think he's elite defensively, but offensively, I have concerns. And similar to Joel Embiid, we saw in all those years in the postseason, he has work to do. And my question is, will that come for next season?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next topic is Stephen Curry. I had him at number 8 because I didn't edit my notes. Number 7, excuse me. And I'm really ashamed about that because Stephen Curry is better than Kevin Durant. He's better than LeBron James.
Yes. No.
I didn't edit it after the finals.
No.
Okay.
Sorry. No. But go ahead.
And he is better than, and though he doesn't produce at the same level as Luka Doncic this season specifically because shooting was down, I also think he's better than Luka. And I think he is top 5, even though I wouldn't have him in the top 3. I think that's fair. But Stephen Curry is 34 years old. And the Warriors, they're going to be contenders next year and favorites at that. But the more fascinating question is, when we look back at Steph's career, I feel like his legacy will age the same way it did for Tim Duncan or Bill Russell. A selfless superstar that changed the entire dynamic of a franchise. The Warriors should be paying him billions because he's made them so much money. This new arena they have, this loyal fan base, he built literally all of that. Without him, the game doesn't change the way it has. I heard one person, AM Hoops, he said, when rookies come into the game, typically, or the league, they'll have to adjust to the league. But the league, within 6 years, was adjusting to Steph.
Mm-hmm.
Just by the time he was 25 years old. And all of a sudden, 3-and-D wins. If you can shoot the 3, you're automatically a highly coveted player. Everyone wants a three-point shooter. And you look at Steph, and you stack up his resume against the greatest players of all time. Hakeem, Shaq, Bird, Kobe. Some people will say Curry over Kobe. He now has his 4th title. And for the people that cared about Finals MVPs, well, guess what? He has one after one of the best Finals performances we have seen of the last decade. So I don't want to hear about the Finals MVP garbage. All that matters is no player has been as selfless as Steph Curry and changed the game the same way he has since Tim Duncan, who irrefutably is a top 10 player of all time to me. So my question to you guys is, where does Steph rank among the best? Is he creeping in the top 5 discussion? Can he get there in the next 2 years? Because his game can age well, even though he's 6'2". Justin, we were talking about this before. What do you think? Where's your rank?
I honestly look at players that not just dominate the game today, but, really revolutionize the entire game. And Steph has done that maybe better than just about anybody that we've seen, at least anybody that I've gotten to witness. So I think it's fair to say that he can creep into the top 5. I would throw him in the top 10. And honestly, he didn't even need to make an NBA Finals for me to throw him in there. I think he was in there just walking into this season. He didn't need to prove to me anything. I can go to the park, even at my job alone, I see kids yelling Curry now. I remember being a kid yelling Kobe, shooting a paper into a garbage can. Now I'm hearing kids yell Curry. Everybody wants to be like Curry. Nobody wants to be LeBron anymore. Nobody wants to be these other guys. They want to be Steph Curry. And I think, he's just a great person, a great personality. He's a great example for other people. So it's just easily top 10. And I really don't know how you can debate otherwise. Like you said, he has the accolades to show it. The Finals MVP is right there on his trophy case now. He had an All-Star game. All-Star game MVP, Finals MVP. Like, geez, what can't this guy do to prove that he is a top 10 player?
So
probably doesn't care about it.
Just to go off of what you were just naming his stats, I got it right here for you. 4-time champ, 2-time MVP, only unanimous MVP, 8-time All-Star. He's a 8-time All-NBA player, 2-time scoring champ, led the league in steals when he was an MVP back in 2016. One of an elite company, the 50-40-90 club, and only shot under 40% from 3 once in his career when he played more than half the season. So, and on top of that, let's just not forget the greatest shooter that has ever played the game, the greatest 3-point shooter that's ever played the game, revolutionized the NBA.
I've got a question. We're going to call this Who's Higher. I'm going to list you players. You're going to give me your immediate response. I'm not going to list, we can all agree he's not top 3, because for me, my top 10 of all time is MJ at number 1. I grew up watching LeBron, but I have him at number 2 now. Kareem at number 3. And then after Kareem, I feel like we can all agree that's the top 3, right? Do you guys disagree?
That's fair.
Okay, so after Kareem, I have Magic at 4. And then it can go any way you want. I have had Kobe at 5, but I've switched that. I have Larry at 5, then Bill Russell at 6, Kobe at 7. And then after those 3 guys, there's a couple of different ways you can go with this. There's Hakeem, there's Shaq, there's Steph now, and I have him above both those 2 players. So I'm gonna list you some players outside the top 3. Okay? Steph or Kobe?
Kobe.
Steph or Duncan?
Duncan. Steph or Olajuwon?
Steph.
Steph or Shaq?
Shaq.
Okay. Steph or KD?
Steph.
Okay, it's an easy one. I forgot Tim Duncan was one of my players. I was looking.
That's not an easy one.
What, Steph and KD?
Yeah, I don't think that's that easy.
That's an easy one.
I think Kevin Durant's the most unguardable player in the NBA, man. I just love watching him. Maybe that's just
he looked guardable in the first round of the playoffs this year when Jason Tatum locked him up.
All right. But yeah.
Him look like Sidney Moncrief.
On to the next.
So do you guys have him around that 6 to 8 range? Do you have your rankings now?
Yeah. He's number 9
for
me all time.
I believe I put him at number 7. I can't swipe up right now, but
I have him at 8, right ahead of Hakeem, because Hakeem won his first title at 31. Steph just won his 4th at 34. And there's a very good chance they win another in the next 2 years with all of the young talent they've accumulated. So to me, yeah, I mean, he's over Hakeem, no problem, even though Hakeem had a defensive dominance. And Shaq as well.
That's the one negative on Steph, that it's going to be hard to rank him higher, because the one knock on Steph about him being top 10, look at everybody's top 10 all-time list. Name me the weak defender. It's Steph. And that it's a hard argument, because this is basketball. There's 2 sides, and it should be 50-50. That's why Kawhi Leonard's the second best player in the league to me, because of defense. But Steph Curry is such an incredibly great offensive player that's why he's number 9 for me right now. And it's going to be hard. I mean, if he keeps winning ring after ring after, it's going to be hard to freaking deny him. But it's the defense is the one flaw. That's it.
I think he's a good defensive guard.
Yeah, he's solid. He's average, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think Magic and Shaq exactly were all defensive players. And I could say Magic, though he could rebound and get steals and stuff, I don't know if he was really a quality defender. I
don't have the stats in front of me right now, but I believe Shaq and Magic made all defensive teams.
Magic never made an all-defensive team, I can assure you.
Well, he was a great defender.
Shaq never did either.
Shaq never made a defensive team?
No, he guard pick and roll. I mean, that's pretty important. But
I believe you now, but I'm going to double check later.
So yeah, that will conclude episode number 1 of the Wise Guys podcast. I'm John Tortorelli. This is Justin Ray and Brian Capizella.
One thing before we go. I'm wearing a New York Knicks t-shirt, guys. Nobody has been able to guess who is on the back of it. He was a guard. He played with Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony. Probably the last time the Knicks actually had a chance at a title. Anybody guess?
I
was going to guess Nate Robinson until you said that. So
I tried earlier. Oh. It's just came Derek Fisher. No, wait, he was number 2. He was number 2, wasn't he? Did he play for the Knicks or no? Am I getting that wrong?
He sadly coached the Knicks. I remember that.
Okay.
Wait, so it's not Derek
It
Fisher?
is not Derek Fisher. He is, I believe he's a Hall of Famer.
I got nothing.
He has an awesome nickname.
And he said he was playing with.
He only
Ahmad
played
Gardner.
half a season with the Knicks.
A guard champion. Half a season with the Knicks.
Oh, you're talking about Chauncey Billups?
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Big Shot
I didn't even
himself.
know that.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even know he played
I
in the
didn't know
Knicks.
that either.
I had a little inkling. I thought he meant he was a Knicks coach. I was like, okay, that makes more sense now. That makes now I feel relieved. So yeah, guys, who are your favorite teams? I'm a Nuggets fan, kind of, not really. I see in the background. No, Devin Booker jersey, same thing. Favorite teams.
Go ahead, Justin.
Basketball, New York Knicks till I die. They torture me, but I love them. Football, I'm an oddball. I'm a New England Patriot fan. Baseball, I stay true to my roots in the Bronx, New York Yankees all the way. I don't really watch hockey, but I always support the Rangers, and that's really it. Yeah.
For me, it's basketball. It's the reason I'm a basketball fan. My favorite player of all time, Dwayne Wade, the Flash. There's a funny story behind that. I won't tell you now, but maybe we get into it later on in another episode. So Miami Heat, and I'm just saying, we're winning the championship in the next 5 years, so you can book that.
Yeah.
And for football, it's the New England Patriots. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Tom Brady's my guy. Forever my quarterback, like Terrell Owens said. That's my quarterback. And also, we're going to win it. New England's going to win a championship in the next 5 years, so you can book that too. So I'm going to be pretty happy in the next 5 years.
I'm a Steelers fan. This is my second favorite athlete of all time, Troy Polamalu. First is Kobe, which you can't see. I didn't mention the Steelers just because they torture me so much. When the season ends, I usually kind of go on a cleansing. But we're going to be talking about NFL in this podcast as well.
Fun
fact
about your boy Troy Polamalu. He's the reason I use Head and Shoulders.
What better way to end it off? Thank you, fellas. And as always, you can follow us on our socials. We're going to get on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Subscribe to see more content like this. And as always, till next time.
Stay classy, guys.